A dentist in Orange, New Jersey, gently touched the jaw of a patient named Molly Madja. He wasn't pulling a tooth. He wasn't performing surgery. He was just examining her. But under the slightest pressure, her jawbone snapped. He reached into her mouth and removed a piece of bone. It was gray, it was dead, and it was covered in ulcers. This happened in 1922. Molly wasn't a soldier returning from the trenches. She wasn't a coal miner breathing in black dust. She was a 19-year-old girl with the most glamorous job in America. She was a Radium Girl. She spent her days painting watches with a magical new substance that glowed in the dark. The company told her the paint would put roses in her cheeks. They told her it was pure health. They told her it would make her beautiful. But they lied. While the company owners sat in offices shielded by lead walls, they told the girls to use their mouths to sharpen the brushes. Lip, dip, paint. Molly did this hundreds of times a day. Every time she licked the brush, she was swallowing the most radioactive substance on Earth. It didn't kill her instantly. It waited. It settled in her legs. It settled in her jaw. And it began to eat her alive from the inside out. This isn't just a story about a bad product. It is a story about a corporation that knew they were murdering their workers and calculated that it was cheaper to let them rot than to admit they were wrong. I'm James Tudor. This is Empire Archives, and this is the story of the women who lit up the world and paid for it with their bones. The era 1917. The Great War is raging in Europe. In America, the economy is booming, but for women, the options are limited. You could be a maid, a laundress, or a factory worker. It was hard, dirty, low-paying work. Then, the United States Radium Corporation opened a studio in Orange, New Jersey. Getting a job there was like winning the lottery. It paid 3 times the average factory wage. And the environment? It was like a social club. The girls sat in a sunlit room, rows of desks facing big windows, chatting, laughing, and eating candy while they worked. They were painting watch dials for the soldiers. In the trenches, electric lights were too dangerous. They gave away your position to snipers. So, the army needed watches that glowed in the dark. The magic ingredient was Undark, a paint made from radium. At the time, radium was the most expensive substance on Earth. It was $120,000 per gram. That's $2.2 million in today's money. It was considered a miracle cure. People drank radium water to cure arthritis. They used radium toothpaste to whiten teeth. It was the wonder element. So, when the girls at the factory were covered in radium dust at the end of the day, they didn't wash it off. They loved it. They called themselves the Ghost Girls. Walking home in the dark, they literally glowed. Their hair shimmered. Their clothes sparkled. One girl, knowing she had a date that night, painted her teeth with the radium so her smile would knock her boyfriend over. It was a fairy tale. But there was one rule in the studio that changed everything. The watch dials were tiny. Some were only 3.5 centimeters wide. The numbers were microscopic. To paint them, the brush tip had to be needle sharp. You couldn't use a rag. You couldn't use water. The water broke down the adhesive. So, the managers taught them the technique. Lip, dip, paint. Put the brush in your mouth. Twirl it on your tongue to a fine point. Dip it in the radium, paint the number, lip, dip, paint. Some of the girls asked, "Is this safe?" They knew radium was powerful. The floor managers had a script. They said, "It is perfectly harmless. It creates a healthy glow." What they didn't tell the girls was that in the back laboratory, the company chemists, the men who actually understood the science, were using lead tongs, heavy masks, and lead screens to handle the exact same paint. The bosses protected themselves. The girls, they were eating it. The horror didn't happen all at once. Radium plays the long game. It mimics calcium. When you ingest it, your body thinks, "Oh, this is calcium. I need this for my bones." So it takes the radium and builds it into your skeleton. Once it's in your bones, it bombards the surrounding tissue with radiation, 24 hours a day, forever. It started about 5 years later, in 1922. Molly Magia was the first to fall. It began as a toothache, a simple, nagging pain. Her dentist pulled the tooth, but the wound didn't heal. Instead, it turned into a large, painful ulcer. It bled constantly. Her breath began to smell like rotting meat. Then, her legs began to ache. She couldn't walk. The doctors diagnosed her with rheumatism. Then they said it was pyorrhea. But then the next tooth fell out. And the next. By May of 1922, Molly was desperate. She went back to her dentist. He probed her jaw gently, trying to find the source of the infection. To his horror, the jawbone felt soft. He pushed a little harder, and the bone broke through her gums. He removed the entire left side of her jaw with his fingers. No surgery required. The bone had simply disintegrated. Molly Magia died on September 12, 1922. She was 24 years old. She died gargling blood as her jugular vein ruptured. And this is where the company made their move. The death certificate was the most important document in this cover-up. If it said industrial poisoning, the company was liable. So, under pressure from the company, the doctors wrote down a different cause of death: syphilis. It was a brilliant, evil lie. In the 1920s, syphilis was a mark of shame. It meant Molly was loose. It meant she was immoral. It shamed her family into silence. The company knew that no other girl would want to come forward if it meant being branded with a venereal disease. For 2 years, the lie worked. The company hired private investigators to follow the girls, looking for dirt to use against them. But they couldn't stop the bodies from piling up. Grace Fryer, the girl who loved the job, started losing her teeth. Her spine began to crush under its own weight. She had to wear a steel back brace just to stand up. That's when Dr. Harrison Martland entered the story. He was the chief medical examiner of Essex County. He was a man of science, not a man on the company payroll. He heard about these girls dying of syphilis, and the symptoms didn't make sense. Syphilis doesn't make your jaw fall off. He decided to investigate. He brought one of the sick girls into his office and tried something radical. He asked her to breathe on an electroscope, a device used to detect radiation. A normal person has 0 radiation in their breath. When the girl breathed on the machine, the needles went crazy. She wasn't just sick, she was radioactive. She was exhaling radon gas. Dr. Martland realized the terrifying truth. The girls weren't just poisoned, they were emitting poison. He needed definitive proof, so he did the unthinkable. He had the body of Molly Magia exhumed, dug up from her grave 5 years after she died. They opened the coffin. They took out her bones. They cleaned them and placed them on top of X-ray film in a dark room. They didn't use an X-ray machine. They just left the bones on the film. When they came back days later, the film had developed. The bones were so radioactive, they had taken their own picture. The syphilis lie was dead. The Radium Girls had been murdered. Now, you would think that once this news broke in New Jersey, the madness would stop. You would be wrong. This is where the story goes from tragedy to capital crime. While the New Jersey case was heating up, a second company called Radium Dial opened a factory in Ottawa, Illinois. They knew about the deaths in New Jersey. They knew about the jawbones. They knew about Dr. Martlin's report. And yet, they hired a whole new workforce of young women, and they gave them the exact same instruction: lip, dip, paint. When the Illinois girls asked about the rumors from out east, the managers lied to their faces. They said, the New Jersey girls were using a different kind of paint. Our paint is safe. It was the exact same paint. This brings us to Catherine Donahue. She was the Molly Magia of Illinois. She worked at Radium Dial for years. She was a mother. She was beloved. And just like the others, she began to rot. When she tried to sue, Radium Dial didn't just deny it. They tried to hide the evidence. They actually burned the medical records of the employees to keep them out of court. But Catherine Donahue was a fighter. Even as her hip bone splintered and her teeth fell out, she refused to settle. Back in New Jersey, Grace Fryer finally found a lawyer willing to take the case. His name was Raymond Berry. But the United States Radium Corporation had a new weapon: the calendar. Their legal strategy was simple: delay. They filed motions for extensions. They missed hearings. They claimed their key witnesses were on vacation in Europe. The judge, who had ties to the company, let them get away with it. The plan was obvious to everyone. If they dragged the trial out long enough, the plaintiffs would all be dead. But in 1928, the trial finally happened. It became a media circus. The press called Grace and her friends the Legion of the Living Dead. The headlines were sensational: girls doomed to die, beauty that killed. When Grace Fryer entered the courtroom, she couldn't walk. She had to be supported. She couldn't sit up straight because her spine was collapsing. Her teeth were gone, but she sat there. She looked the company executives in the eye, healthy men in expensive suits, and she told the truth. In Illinois, Catherine Donahue's trial was even more heartbreaking. By the time her case reached the judge in 1938, she weighed less than 70 pounds. She was literally disappearing. She was too weak to go to the courthouse. So, the court came to her. Imagine this scene. A judge, the lawyers, and the company executives all crowded into Catherine Donahue's living room. Standing around her deathbed, she held up a small container of the yellow powder. With her last breath, she whispered, "This is what did it." She collapsed shortly after giving her testimony. She died before the final appeal was heard. But she had done enough. The companies settled. In New Jersey, Grace Fryer and the others received $10,000 each, about $150,000 today, and a $600 annual pension. It was guilt money. It paid for their funerals. Grace Fryer died in 1933. The radium had fused to her DNA. It was part of her, but their suffering wasn't in vain. Because of the Radium Girls, The United States government created the very first laws protecting workers from occupational disease. Before this case, companies could kill you and call it bad luck. After this case, they were liable. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, the agency that ensures you have a hard hat and safety goggles, exists largely because of Grace Fryer and Catherine Donahue. But there is one final haunting fact that proves the power of what happened to them. Radium-226 has a half-life of 1,600 years. That means it doesn't go away. Decades after the factories closed, the buildings were still glowing. They had to be demolished and the dirt shipped to radioactive waste sites. But the girls, they are still there. In a cemetery in New Jersey and a cemetery in Ottawa, Illinois, Geiger counters still click when you stand over their graves. The company is gone. The profits are gone. The executives are dust. But the women they killed are still glowing, and they will be for another 1,000 years. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the Empire Archives for more stories like this.